If you're eating, enjoy your meal. I wish you a good day, that everything goes well, and enjoy the video. Get comfortable and pay attention to this story.
Welcome to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're looking at a story that honestly feels like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood script. But every single detail we're going to cover is entirely real. We are going to break down one of the most bizarre, monumental heists in digital history. We're tracing the complete rise and fall of a cryptocurrency empire. And honestly, the sheer audacity of how this was pulled off is just fascinating. So let's dive right into this. $3.4 billion. I mean, just take a second to really wrap your head around that number. In a single raid back in November 2021, authorities uncovered this absolutely staggering amount of wealth. And the crazy thing is, this wasn't some massive cartel bust, and it wasn't a Wall Street bank fraud case either. This is the stash of one single individual. But what's really wild here isn't just the sheer scale of the money, it's where investigators actually found it. And I am literally not making this up. It was hidden inside a Cheetos popcorn can. I think this just brilliantly illustrates the absolute absurdity of this whole case. You have this high-tech mastermind, right? Someone brilliant enough to steal billions of dollars in digital currency and not get caught for almost a decade, and he decides that the ultimate foolproof vault for his fortune is a junk food tin just sitting in his house. The contrast between this genius digital execution and this incredibly mundane, everyday hiding spot is just mind-boggling. So here's the timeline of Jimmy Zhong's incredibly turbulent journey. Back in 2009, he discovers Bitcoin. Then, 2012 brings the massive Silk Road hack. Fast forward a bit to a highly fateful 911 call in 2019, and finally, it all ends with the 2021 FBI raid. Let's trace exactly how all of this happened. All right, Section 1, Hacking the Silk Road. Before we get into the crime itself, we really need to understand the mastermind behind it all. Jimmy Zhong wasn't your typical seasoned criminal. Honestly, he was an underdog. He was someone just trying to escape a pretty tough reality. And his path to becoming a billionaire thief started simply with this intense obsession with computers. His early life had some real challenges. His immigrant parents struggled after coming to the US, and Jimmy faced some pretty intense bullying at school. The source material actually highlights this particularly humiliating moment he had to endure during a high school football game. So to escape that harsh reality, he turned inward, specifically to books and computers. And it turns out he was brilliant at it. He excelled academically, even winning the prestigious Hope Scholarship. Now, though he did start drinking heavily at university, his discovery of Bitcoin in 2009 absolutely changed his trajectory forever. By 2012, Jimmy is deep into the crypto world, and he turns his attention to the Silk Road. Now, for those who might not know, this was a notorious dark web marketplace, mostly used for illegal drugs, that relied entirely on Bitcoin to process its transactions. But Jimmy didn't go there to buy contraband. He went there and actually looked at the underlying code itself. And what he found was a massive loophole. He spotted a flaw in the system of this illicit marketplace, and well, he decided to exploit it. Through that tiny little loophole, he managed to siphon out a staggering 51,680 Bitcoins. Now, at the time, back in 2012, that massive pile of crypto was worth about $700,000. So definitely not a bad payday for a few keystrokes, right? But of course, as the years went on, the value of those 51,680 Bitcoins absolutely skyrocketed into the billions. The FBI had actually been tracking these stolen funds from the exact moment they went missing, but Jimmy managed to stay completely off their radar for over a decade. So how exactly do you spend a decade with that kind of secret wealth? Well, he lived the high life for sure, but with incredible caution. We're talking flying his friends on a private jet to watch football games. He'd give them $10,000 each, literally just to go luxury shopping in Beverly Hills. And you would think that kind of crazy spending would immediately trigger an IRS audit, especially after he had a 2016 arrest for cocaine possession at a spot called Eddie's Calzones. Though, to be fair, he got probation and those charges were ultimately dropped. But Jimmy was incredibly smart about the money. For 5 full years, he did not sell a single Bitcoin from his stolen Silk Road stash. He funded all of this lavish spending through Bitcoins he had obtained completely legally. He was basically the perfect ghost. Moving on to Section 2, the critical mistake. But, even ghosts slip up eventually. And the turning point in this story is just steeped in pure irony. On March 13th, 2019, the guy who pulled off one of the greatest digital thefts in history became the victim of a physical, old-school robbery. Let's walk through the exact domino effect of his downfall here because it is staggering. Step 1. A thief breaks into Jimmy's house and steals a suitcase holding $400,000 in cash and 150 bitcoins. Step 2, and this is where it gets crazy, Jimmy actually picks up the phone and calls 911 to report the theft. He literally called the police to his own house, the same house that contained billions in stolen crypto. Step 3, the police obviously question him about why he just happens to have nearly $500,000 in cash lying around, which immediately raises major red flags with the IRS. And then, Step 4, the fatal technical slip-up. Jimmy tries to cover his tracks by mixing $800 of the stolen money with his own on a KYC exchange. Now, a KYC exchange stands for Know Your Customer. Basically, these are platforms that require strict user identity verification, stuff like passports, driver's licenses, your real name. By mixing a mere $800 of his stolen illicit funds with his own clean money on a platform that actually possessed his verified real-world identity, Jimmy completely connected the dots for the authorities. That one tiny transaction was the exact thread the FBI needed to unravel the whole shebang. Section 3. Why only 1 year? So the net finally closes in on Jimmy. A year after his mistake, in November 2021, authorities search his homes and they uncover a massive physical haul. They found $700,000 in physical cash. They found 25 Caduceus coins, which contained 174 Bitcoin. And of course, the grand prize, that Cheetos popcorn can containing a small computer holding 50,676 Bitcoins. The government confiscated absolutely everything. Jimmy's incredible run was officially over, and he was headed straight to prison. But get this, he only got 1 single year behind bars for a multi-billion-dollar heist. According to the source material, there were quite a few legal reasons for this surprisingly light outcome. First off, cooperation. He actively helped authorities by voluntarily handing over the stolen Bitcoin. Second, it was a non-violent crime, which, in the justice system, often yields lighter sentences. Third was reimbursement. He essentially returned the stolen funds, which demonstrated responsibility to the court. He also entered a plea agreement, which naturally reduced the charges. And finally, it was his first offense. When you stack all those legal reasons together, that is exactly how a $3.4 billion theft results in just a 12-month sentence. All right, bringing us to our final section, the end of anonymity. Jimmy Chung's case actually exposed so much more than just his own crimes. It fundamentally shattered the core myth of digital currency. The crucial takeaway for all of us is simple. Every single Bitcoin transaction is recorded forever on the blockchain. Jimmy financed his later endeavors really thinking he could outsmart or cheat the system. But the blockchain never, ever forgets. People often think cryptocurrency offers this total, untraceable anonymity. It doesn't. It is, by definition, a public, permanent ledger. What Jimmy thought was safely hidden turned out to be, as the source perfectly calls it, a digital map leading straight to his door. No matter how many complex crypto mixers you use or how clever you think you are, years of meticulous forensic investigation will eventually trace those steps back. The trail always, always leads somewhere. Which kind of leaves us with this one final thought. If a certified genius who successfully hid his billions in a Cheetos can couldn't hide from the permanent memory of the blockchain, well, if the blockchain never forgets, who is it tracking next? It really makes you stop and think about the permanence of our own digital footprints, doesn't it? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope you found this as fascinating to learn about as I did.